Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Friday Night Live. My name is Paul Cooper, Bakr Cooper, and I have with me brother Zaffar. Assalamu alaikum, Zaffar.
Walaikum salam. You're listening to Inspire FM 105.1 FM. This is Friday Night Live, and you are listening to Dr. ABC and Zaffar Iqbal on Sidekick today, inshallah. And
now, inshallah, today we're trying things a little bit different, listeners. So we're going to try, we want to try and get you involved. So if you'd like to call in with any questions on the points we're asking tonight, please give us a call, 01582 481822. 01582 481822. And the first thing we just wanted to start with tonight is just a little short segment. Many of you may not be aware of this. Recently, of course, we found out that the people that was some of the people that were supporting Palestine Action who had been on hunger strike, they ended their hunger strike. But there's one young man, his name is Umar Khan. He's 22 years old, and he's now completed today. He's done two weeks of hunger strike. And it's very sad, actually. This young man, it seems he's so resolved, or whether it's distraught or whatever it is, because he's on remand. He said that from Sunday that he's going to also start refusing even drinking. So we potentially from Sunday have 48 hours from Sunday to help save this young man's life. Now, of course, the Quran says if we manage to save a life, it is as if you saved all of mankind. Now, of course, we can't say that we support Palestine Action because they did get involved in criminal damage, which, of course, for us as Muslims, we cannot condone or support. But we urge, please, the UK authorities, please just give this young man, grant him his bail, so that this poor distraught young man, he ends the strike that he's saying that he's resolved that he's going to start on Sunday of refusing water, because you could be dead within 24 hours if you refuse water. We just wanted to get that out there because we felt a responsibility to let you know this situation, and of course we wouldn't have time to go into it. And if he does go with his resolve and does go ahead refusing water. It's a very state of affairs.
It is a very state of affairs. But to be honest, from a government's point of view, if they would say that if everybody wanting bail wanted to go on hunger strike, right? We can't sort of deal with those situations. But the thing is, it's about the seriousness of the crime. Now, it's a political decision to upgrade membership of this particular group and make it equivalent to crimes of ISIS and Al Qaeda and people of those nature. To be honest. And it is a political decision, right? It's not based on risks and threats and etc. to the public, and this is why this is such a sensitive topic. This is why these people are saying, well, we've exercised our freedom, right, to exactly express our opinions and our thoughts, etc. And now you're holding us and you're delaying.
I have to ask the question because of course it connects with the things that we're going to talk about in a moment, listeners. But on this issue, have we become a totally subservient vassal state to America and Israel, what they want? I have to ask.
It feels like that there are influential groups in the country who have a say in our justice system, and which is fundamentally wrong. Our justice system is a pride of the world, and our justice system is meant to be justice on the basis of facts, blind justice, like that, say. And if it's subject to political interference from politicians and people of influence, or whether from the UK or the America or Israel, and then I think there's a lot of worrying that needs to happen in the UK.
So let's put that urge again. So please, authorities who it's relevant to, please can we just release this man on bail. He's on remand. Please, that's all he wants. Release him on bail until his case comes through. He's distraught. He's already been on hunger strike for 2 weeks. I'll be honest, I can't even imagine how you'd be with literally no food for 2 weeks. And some people die without even. I mean, what he's proposing to do from Sunday, no fluids at all. You can die within 24 hours of that. 0 fluids. You can die.
And this is a doctor speaking, a former doctor speaking.
Yeah. So please, as I said, the Quran says that if we manage to save a life, it is as if you save all of mankind. So please, authorities, please can we release someone on bail? I think that's a perfectly reasonable request. Okay, folks. So we're going to move on. Crumbs. I really don't know. I don't really know where to begin. This has been one of the fastest weeks moving in politics I think I have ever seen.
And you're referring to Donald J. Trump and his shenanigans, basically. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, believe me. Yeah, this is not fake news. WBC, White House Broadcasting Company. No fake news.
Indeed.
Yeah. And like I said, I asked the question before: are we becoming a vassal state? And that's so. If you don't know, listeners, what I mean by a vassal state that has become totally subservient to a more dominant state, so that you pay them money and tribute, you yield to whatever decision they say. And I have to say, I think that's becoming a valid question.
It seems like that. The impression is happening like that. But I guess Britain's not alone. There's a lot of countries that are trying to figure out what Donald Trump is up to.
Yeah. Now, this next point that we want to discuss, listeners, is something I found on the news feed from TRT World. And it is the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. So he had a meeting with his Russian cabinet. And they've published it. So I'll read out verbatim what was on the TRT site. So it says, and I quote, "In a striking intervention into the growing international debate over Greenland's future, Russian President Vladimir Putin suggested that if the United States were to buy the Arctic territory from Denmark, the price tag would be up to $1 billion. That's
which is pittance these days.
Well, I don't think people realise Denmark is 9 times the size of the whole of the UK. It's not a tiny little island. Yeah. So,
you mean Greenland?
Yeah, Greenland. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
And it's interesting because what he has referenced here is the historic sale by Russia to America of the state of Alaska. Now, many of you not know, but this used to be Russian territory, and it was actually sold almost 159 years ago by Russia to Alaska in 1867. So I've got to say, it's very clear he's poking fun at the situation, isn't it?
He is, to be honest, right? But, he's tongue-in-cheek. Publicly, he's supporting Trump in his claim to Denmark. To Greenland, but in reality, right, he's actually trying to scare the Europeans. Basically, that's what his intention is, and by drawing the parallels, I think he's trying to also point out what a good deal it was to give away Alaska to America. For the price.
I don't think he would be saying that now because, of course, in the 1960s, they found huge amounts of oil in Alaska.
Correct. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So I don't think he really means that.
He doesn't really mean that, but I think he's bemoaning the fact that America got the better deal from that transaction.
Yeah.
But I guess we talk about the Greenland and we talk about America's demand for Greenland to be part of American territory. It's not unusual because there's lots of territories have been ceded to the United States of America. The name United States is basically a commonwealth of disparate states basically coming together under a federal system of USA. There's been lots of countries, smaller countries and larger countries. You've got Hawaii as an example that became part of the United States, in the last century.
Yeah.
You had,
and to this day, under still quite.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Haiti. Might be.
There's still quite a lot of non-acceptance of the indigenous Hawaiians, actually.
Yeah, indeed, and there's other
get spoken of.
Yeah, and other islands become. And whether they came through compulsion or voluntarily or whatever, so America has been expanding through absorbing territories to be part of the United States, etc. And I think that's the proposal, that Greenland becomes another state, basically, of the United States. Obviously, the population of Greenland have different ideas. So why is Donald J. Trump very keen on that territory becoming part of the United States? I guess partly may well be the mineral riches of the place.
I've actually got my own private idea, actually.
Go on then, tell your private idea.
So I remember very, very well, 1976. I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So you would have been 11. And listeners, that was the 200th anniversary of the good old US of A from 1776 on the 4th of July. And 4th of July this year is the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States on the 4th of July, 1776. I think Donnie is having this idea to cement his legacy by expanding the empire this year. I think that's what he's doing.
Well, I think that might be a thing. I think he's more, because he's in the real estate sector. I think property and minerals and all of that stuff might well be playing the calculations from his perspective. So he's in a good position to maybe get his son's company or his whatever to actually start exploring for minerals in that country. But the other thing to know is that many people, when they look at the world, they look at the world from one particular angle. They see the United States as a country, and they see Africa, and they see from that particular view. But if you were to look at the world from the Arctic perspective, as if you are a satellite looking down on the Arctic, the world is actually much closer than it is if you look at it from the side. And Greenland is basically up there, and it's got a pretty solid control of the shipping lanes, if the shipping lanes were through climate change, etc., become available. Because at the moment, they're obviously there's ice and snow and whatever. Yeah. It's inaccessible. But the world is very much closer from the Arctic perspective. It's just that it's inaccessible at the moment because of the ice and snow and the temperatures, etc. But if the temperature was to change and shipping was more easily, readily accommodated, then you'll see a lot more shipping happening between China through that route, and from Russia, Far East Russia, through that route. Yeah. And that makes trade between Europe and China and the Far East a lot easier. So therefore, it's essential to control the shipping lanes. At the moment, the choke point that you have, if you look at the globe, if China was to send some goods to Europe, they will go through two choke points unless they want to go to the very long route. Mm-hmm. One of the choke points is Singapore, the Malacca Straits, basically. That's a very short, narrow stretch of sea surrounded by islands. And America has a big stake there, so America can keep an eye on things there. So China is very scared that America could block that off, and they're very keen to open alternative routes. The other choke point in that, if you travel in that direction, is Suez Canal. And as you can see, there's lots of activity happening with Israel playing sort of a dominant role in trying to control what goes in and out of Suez Canal by, recognizing Somaliland and having military presence there, etc. recently. So for China to trade freely, it has to negotiate several choke points. And if, however, the northern Arctic route became available through, melting of the ice and snow, etc., that would make trade a lot easier. So America wants to get in there first and then station its control. Having said that, there is American military presence there already. So, Donald can do that already if he wanted to. But anyway, that's a bit of history. Yes.
There's a thing which I always believe, Zaffar, especially in international politics.
Yeah.
Nothing ever happens by accident.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm sure you remember 5 or 6 years ago when Donny was in his first presidency, he kicked up a big fuss about China and Huawei.
Yeah.
And he literally strong-armed the UK, and we had to get rid of all of Huawei's
infrastructure.
5G infrastructure in our telephone network system. Remember that?
That's right, yeah.
With the things saying that they were spying on us and UK was no longer a safe friend and all of this, which, let's face it, I don't think any of us actually thought that was credible. But it's interesting, and connected with that, as we've had all of this business going on in the last few days with the Greenland issue.
Yeah.
And there was lots of hype going in the news, and it's been going on months actually, about the new embassy which China has bought and is wanted to open. Now, if you don't know, folks, China bought the building of the old historical Royal Mint in London.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's a very large site, and it would make China's embassy the largest embassy anywhere in Europe. And of course, there's been huge, sort of negativity,
outcry,
hatred even from the US about this. And of course, this is then trickled down through all of our politicians. I'm not going to name any names, but which I have to say is it's almost sycophancy. What I mean by that, folks, sycophancy means that you're in complete subservience to someone above you. In this case, I'm saying the American government. And we had a lot of our politicians saying, under no circumstances this can happen. This would be a disaster. And of course, it's all came out this week. The security services approved it, said that the risks were all completely manageable, and the UK has approved the embassy. So what does that tell you? Starmer is playing the long game.
Oh, you reckon?
Oh, yes, definitely.
You reckon there's intellectual thought to what he's doing now?
Like I said, nothing happens in international politics by accident.
Indeed.
And what he's doing, he's clearly, after what's happened in the last few days,
hedging his bets.
Yeah, he's looked at it and he thought, my God, the UK, none of the politicians are saying this, but if you and I can sit here just as analysts of politics, that's all we are. We're not politicians, but we just follow politics because it's a very big love and interest of ours. If we can look at that and say, okay, the USA is no longer a reliable, safe partner, if we can think that, 100% our politicians are thinking that. They won't say it out publicly because they do not want to alienate this man.
Yeah, well, to be honest, right, I wish that was the case. Once upon a time, the politicians were 110% for the benefit of the country. Over the years, I've become cynical. A lot of the politicians are in it for the short term, for their own immediate gains. And if that was the case, and Starmer is playing the long game in the interest of the United Kingdom, then that will be a welcome sort of, I guess, approach. Yeah. But I have skepticism.
The thing is, look at it pragmatically.
Yeah.
I've been looking at everything that's been going on in the last few days. Nothing, well, literally, actually, nothing in the. I mean, as we know, Donny completed his 12 months just last week. Nothing this man has done in the last month, politically or economically, has made any sound financial sense. Very many economic commentators are saying he's risking crashing the American economy because tariffs ultimately make everything going into the US more expensive. Yes, it hits our businesses, but it means when those things arrive on American soil, it's the American consumers that have to pay those taxes if they want those goods. So yes, it hits our exports, but ultimately, who pays the price? The American consumers, in other words, the poor people. And the only conclusion I've been able to come up with, and I've looked at it from every possible angle, he wants to trigger a crash. And the reason is the only people who profit in a crash is the people that already have liquidity, lots of cash. Because then they can go in, all the property that's going to be sold off very, very cheap, all of the companies that are going to be sold off very, very cheap, they've already got the liquidity and they can go in and buy it. For example, I'll give you some evidence that backs this up. Warren Buffett, who's famously known as the world's richest investor, he's not bought stocks for about 18 months.
He's holding his cash.
He's holding his cash.
The other argument, again, I don't know too much about this, right? So I'm going to venture into territory that I'm not familiar with. So it may well be that we've come to a point where the American debt is unserviceable.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Yeah, it's unserviceable, and I think he knows that, right?
China has already started to sell its bonds.
Yeah, so he wants to. Well, I think he's hoping for a gentle crash, right? So that somehow there's a reset. We can start again. We're not going to pay your debt anymore. Who's going to lose the most? Is it going to be China? Is it going to be the Arab world? Whatever, from a crash in the dollar. So I think he's probably maneuvering in that direction, and behind the scenes, right, you've got this electronic currency, right, which is popping his head up. I think he's got his own digital currency as well. Trump.
Yes, he did. I forget what it's called.
Yeah,
he did make his own.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that any faltering of the dollar as a base will probably improve his chances, or alternative currency, electronic currencies chances. So that might be the case. Or it may well be that, okay, we'll ditch the dollar, we'll go for these CDUs, basically. I think they're called CDUs, where they are electronic currency effectively, and then call it what you like. And I hope that you can wipe the debt, and that will affect foreigners more than it affects America. Again, it's not my territory, to be honest, right? So I'm just trying to join dots of bits of information that I know. But in terms of his behavior, I think there is. I said last week, there is some method to his madness. There's nothing that I've seen that he's doing that the Americans wouldn't have done 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but not publicly declare it. So from a strategy point of view, I can do whatever I want in my backyard. I can do whatever I want anywhere. The international rules apply to everybody else apart from us.
But I'm going to ask this question.
But the key difference is this guy is just quite blatant. He will just say.
I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
After what Donald Trump has done and said this week, can America ever be trusted again? And I'm going to put this.
I think he's the method behind his madness, right, is America is carrying the can for NATO. America is funding NATO effectively to a big tune, and the US has been trying for many years to get the other NATO countries to chip in more. Okay. Now he's saying quite bluntly and quite publicly now, these things would have been said behind the scenes many a time.
I'm just going to put this out there, listeners, in case you didn't know. We spent in that 2001 thing when we went to support America after they triggered and I'm going to explain this in the second part, but I'm just going to quickly say this. After he triggered Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which is when an attack on one is an attack on all, In that 20 years that we spent fighting with them, we spent, if you add on current interest, more or less £1 trillion.
Wow.
That's 1 followed by 12 zeros. So up front, we spent about 860 billion. But with interest, because as everyone knows, we're in debt, you can easily say that's over £1 trillion now.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that about 470 odd people who get their life as well.
Yeah, and
the point I was trying to make is he's now, in one way or the other, forcing other NATO members to contribute more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, folks, now we're down to 30 seconds. I'm just going to give you a reminder if you want to write this down. It's probably easy for the Luton listeners because you're more familiar with it. But for those of you around the country, 01582 481822, 481822. Luton 01582 481822. So please, if you've got a question, and we're going to be going into more detail with everything that's been going on, with the Chagos Islands and everything that's been said. We're going to pick that up in the second half. See you on the other side. Thank you. Assalamu
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. In Luton and its surrounding areas, it is now time for Salat al-Isha.
लुटन और इसके मज़ाफ़ात में नमाज इशा का वक्त हुआ चाहता है.
This azan has been sponsored by Ideal Properties. Contact us on 01582 721110 or log on to www.idealpropertiesltd.co.uk.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
Would you like to sponsor the Azan? If so, give us a call on 01582 481 810 or email us on info@inspirefm.org.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Inspire FM 105.1. Please phone in on 01582 481822. My name is Paul Abu Bakr Cooper and I'm joined with Zaffar Baijan. How are you, Zaffar?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And listeners, you're listening to Inspire FM 105.1 FM. And this is Friday Night Live. So we're joining the second half. We had a bit of a ramble about Trump and his Greenland scenario. Or purchasing or forcibly taking of Greenland scenario. We also touched on a dedicated youngster who has been charged with supporting a prescribed organization, and he's on a hunger strike, and he's close to losing his life, really. So we thought we highlight his plight. His demands aren't really very significant. He's just after a fair trial, basically, and fair treatment by looks of things. That's what we were discussing before the break.
Now, I mentioned before that obviously with everything that's gone on this week, I apologize, listeners, if it sounds like we're devoting so much time to one issue, but we decided it really is that important. And I'm going to play you a clip in a moment, and it's from the governor of the American state of California. Now, I just want to put a little bit of nuance on this before I play the clip. The state of California, if I just put it into perspective for you, its economy is just a tiny bit smaller than the whole of the UK. It's a tiny bit large. The UK's economy is a tiny bit larger than this whole state of California, and the state of California's economy is a tiny bit larger than the whole country of France. So what I'm going to play you is from the Davos meeting that we just had in Switzerland of Mr. Gavin Ransom. Now, Mr. Gavin Ransom is the governor of California, and he really did make it quite clear in no uncertain terms about what our leaders should be doing. So I'm just having a little bit of trouble getting the mouse working here. Is this on?
I think it plays between monitors. So.
Oh, there we go.
We might have to get admin to come and do this for
It's time
you.
to get serious and stop being complicit. It's time to stand tall and firm, have a backbone. I've seen this in the United States. This is by Congress playing both sides.
Okay, so
We'll have to try that again.
Right, let's try again. Our jingles were playing, so I apologise. The producer.
Governor Newsom, do you have a message
Okay, here
to
we go.
Europeans who are concerned about the messages from the White House around Greenland this week?
Yeah, it's time to buck up. It's time to get serious and stop being complicit. It's time to stand tall and firm, have a backbone. I've seen this in the United States. The supine Congress playing both sides. Say one thing on a text or a tweet, and another publicly.
Should
it's
you
time to
respond
have
with
principles. It's time to stand tall and strong.
Does that mean responding
time
with
to
tariffs?
stand united. You make that determination. I don't make that determination.
But when you say standing tall, what do you mean?
Just I can't take this complicity. People rolling over. I should have brought a bunch of knee pads for all the world leaders. I mean, handing out crowns and this is pathetic. Nobel Prizes, they're being given away. I mean, it's just pathetic. And I hope people understand how pathetic they look on the world stage. I mean, at least from an American perspective, it's embarrassing.
So what should Europe be doing?
You should decide, the Europeans should decide for themselves what to do. But one thing they can't do is what they've been doing, and they've been playing. This guy's playing folks for fools, and it's embarrassing.
Europeans think this is diplomacy, and this will ultimately
This is
work.
diplomacy with Donald Trump. He's a T-Rex. You mate with him, or he devours you. One or the other.
And Europe's being
People
devoured.
need to stand. No, the Europeans could be if they continue to down this path and process. They need to stand tall, stand firm, stand united. Well, look, you said this a year ago. We should have been having this conversation, and they didn't. Okay, and now you're paying the price. Exactly what anyone objective observer would have anticipated we'd be where we are today.
What do you think Ursula von der Leyen needs to say?
Lead to the end of the European Union?
I don't want to be hyperbolic about it, but this guy's a wrecking ball. I hope people are waking up to what we're dealing with. This is code red. I mean, you guys are still playing by all set of rules. Everybody, the globe is with this guy. He's unmoored. It's the law of the jungle. It's the rule of dawn. And I hope it's dawning on the world what we're up against. I mean, this is serious. This guy he's not mad. He's very intentional, but he's unmoored and he's unhinged. And it requires the goal is whatever he wants it to be. The goal is the world in his image.
What would your
He's a narcissist. I mean, it's no advice. Common sense. Why don't folks do what they say publicly, what they're saying in private? Why don't they just simply do what they know is right? I mean, everybody's talking behind his back. They're laughing at him. Meanwhile, they're sucking up to him. It's embarrassing. I mean, you're modeling behavior for our kids, generations of folks. This is not diplomacy. This is stupidity.
They don't act as its end with military solution.
I don't know. I mean, it just who knows what happens in that respect. But with Donald Trump, you saw what happened in Maduro.
Okay, folks, so that is the governor of the state of California.
And he's speaking about Donald Trump.
And he's speaking about his own president.
That's right.
Now, this is the point. We are talking about a professional politician here, not someone like you or I. We're just political commentators. You know, say what you say publicly, what you're all saying privately. In other words, he knows, he's a politician, he knows what that was saying privately. You know, I'm just going to go through for you, listeners, some of the key points. Get serious. You've been complicit. Stand tall. Have a backbone. Be united. You're rolling over. You need knee pads. It's embarrassing. Trump is a T-Rex. You should have done something about this a year ago. It's code red. And Donnie wants the world in his image. This is one of the governors of the richest state in the United States of America.
And it just happens to be from a different political spectrum there. That's why. So America is polarized at the moment. There's those.
Yeah, but this is why it was important, I think, to raise this issue, because I think it really is important. Yes, we know that Big Don is the president and he's the head of the GOP, the Grand Old Party, the Republican Party, but that's not the whole of America. You know, it's like comparing, well, of course, whether you say conservative now or whether it's going to be reform, but it's like
you can't compare today's conservatives to anything, to be honest.
Well, it's like comparing. All right, so we'll put together conservative and reform against Labour. You know, poles apart, but neither one represents the whole opinion of the country.
Correct. Not precisely. Yes.
Yeah, and in America, you can't say that someone from the Democratic side is not insignificant. I mean, of course, you know, we had President Biden, we had President Obama. You know, we had President Clinton. You know, so these are presidents we've had like in the last 25 years. So it's not as if, you know, Trump is not speaking for all of America. But the reason why this is important is because once the trust is lost, it's gone. Now, the anniversary for NATO being formed, folks, is the 4th of April. And this year, 2026, if we get that far, 4th of April 2026 will be the 77th anniversary of the inauguration of NATO, which happened in Washington D.C. So it started on the 4th of April in 1949, and we really have to question: is NATO finished? Is it dead and gone? And the reason why I say this, folks, is you may not have picked this up. When all of the European leaders were saying that they were standing shoulder to shoulder with Denmark and Greenland, Canada said that they were standing shoulder to shoulder with Greenland and Denmark. And the UK at that time, I will expand what our Prime Minister said this afternoon, but he was just saying what he was saying was simply wrong to do this. That's what our Prime Minister was saying publicly. But as a result of that, it was being leaked by the news outlets that Denmark was very close to invoking Article 5 of the NATO treaty. Now, what that means, listeners, that means that one of the members is saying that they feel threatened by someone else in the world. And this is the paradox, folks. That was the largest country in NATO, the largest country of the organization in the very country where it was founded in 1949 on the 4th of April. So, this week has been monumentally significant, folks. I really can't overemphasize to you why this is important. And many of you might be thinking, as a Muslim radio station, why are we emphasizing this? Because these issues is not going to just affect the UK or Greenland or Denmark. What happens this week as a result of this, if it goes bad, is going to affect the whole world. And as the Prophet Muhammad said, the Muslim that wakes up in the morning does not think about the affairs of the Ummah is not one of us. So, folks, you often think, oh, politics is too complicated, and you say, oh, people often say, oh, I don't do politics. Well, you may not do politics, but it does do you. And it is a command from the Prophet. We need to know what's going on in the world, because if we don't, we can be tricked, we can be conned, and we can be easily manipulated. And this is why I believe that the Prophet told us this. So it's really important, folks, keep up to date with things. Now, on this, after this issue with Greenland rose, Trump clearly didn't like it. And despite a couple of months ago when he supported the deal with the lease that Britain agreed with Mauritius over the Chagos Islands, he's now kicked up a lot of fuss again this week that the UK is weak. They never should have done the deal. It's a very, very bad deal, blah, 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 blah. And I thought it was important that I just made it clear with everyone that this was something essentially the UK had no choice but to act on. And the reason is, and it wasn't actually started by the present government. It was actually initiated by the previous government. A lot of people aren't aware of that. So despite your hearing criticism from the other side of the aisle in the House of Commons, it was actually started by the previous government. Way back in 2019, they started negotiations. And the reason is that there was an international ruling in 2019 by the International Court of Justice that issued an advisory opinion that stated that the UK's decolonisation of the state of Mauritius was incomplete while it still held the Chagos Islands. And it gave the opinion that this was wrongful. So the UK, of course, wanting to show that it was in following with international law, which I've got to say I do fully agree with, took this decision to negotiate leasing the islands off the island of Mauritius. And it's not cheap. It's costing about £100 million a year, something like that. Is it 100 million? Yeah, I think it is.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think in total, it's going to cost over 100 years, something like 100 billion. So I think it's $1 billion a year we've got to pay. $1 billion a year to keep. And the reason is these
100 million, yeah.
Yeah, these islands are very, very strategic with their position in terms of giving a staging post for military aircraft moving around the world. This is why they're considered absolutely vital as an interest for Britain and America. So this is
these islands were basically, these islands are in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
They're between Mauritius, Sri Lanka and India. The islands, they used to be colonies of Britain.
Yeah.
And Britain, there were actually people living there. There were Chagosian people who used to live there. And back in the 60s, they're small islands, basically. They're not very large. They're small islands, but they're enough to land big bombers, basically, long-range strategic bombers. So in the 60s, the people were moved out, and a huge air base was built there jointly. Well, it's mainly American, to be honest, right? But I think Britain's got some sort of a say in it. And it's the place which was used to bomb Afghanistan and Iraq, basically during the wars. It's a strategic place, right, to keep control, keep an eye out on that part of the world, right, from military perspective by America. So since UK had the ownership of the place, there was some debate whether Mauritius had a say in the affairs of the Chagosians. Basically, a lot of the Chagosians were moved from Chagos to Mauritius, where they stayed. So Mauritius has some sort of a claim on the islands as well, because I think the nearest island is Mauritius for them. So the court ruling said that the Chagosian had a right to go back and populate, go back to their own country effectively. So Britain has agreed some sort of an arrangement where we will pay Mauritius basically money in order to keep the lease and keep the airbase open. So that's where we are at the moment. And so Trump is saying that was a bad deal, basically, because he doesn't respect international law, well, allegedly at least anyway. And he's, he doesn't agree that court rulings should be listened to.
But here we are again. You have America as supposedly the UK's closest ally, accepting this deal in its entirety by Big Don.
The Americans gave it a green light previously.
2 months ago, and he said, he actually said, it's a good deal. He actually word for word said it. And now, because he's upset with us because we're not supporting him with Greenland, now he's angry. And this is the whole thing with Trump. He sees everything as the immediate deal in front of him. He's totally unable to see the big picture, and the big picture is the ongoing forward, decade after decade relationship, which should be important to his country with us, and he's literally binned that. Because
I think you say that, to be honest, but I think it's just an act. He's an actor, and he likes to. The fact that we've spent more than 40 minutes, right, talking about this guy. This is exactly this is exactly what he wants, right? He wants to be in the headlines. It serves his purpose, basically. But what I wanted to say really is that
if I want just avert this, what you say. I know what you're saying, and a lot of political commentators say this about Trump. But the point is, like I said, I firmly believe nothing happens in politics by accident. This almost literally rocking the foundation of NATO. Frankly, I can't see it's going to survive. If you actually,
I think it will survive, and America will get what he wants.
If you actually word for word look at the speech just a couple of days ago of Prime Minister Mark Carney at Davos, he pretty much said, in as many words, that NATO is over.
It's been said about NATO previously as well. It was over when Russia was dissolved. the Soviet Union was dissolved, they said the same thing as well. However, I'm of the firm opinion that this is all just theatre, and he's getting the attention that he craves. The demands of the United States are still the same, that Europeans basically pour more money into NATO than they are at the moment. And this is basically forcing him very strongly and publicly into taking ownership of NATO effectively and contributing more. And that's good for America, because America has to then spend less on defending Europe as he sees it. And so I think if there's a game plan, there's a method to his madness, and it's not his madness, to be honest, right? It's the madness of the institutions that run America, the federal institutions, and this is not a new demand, to be honest, in terms of their requirement for other countries to.
I'm just going to read out some of the key points that have been raised by President Trump and Prime Minister Starmer just in the last couple of days. So in response to what President Trump had been saying about Greenland, the Prime Minister commented with just 2 words. He said, "This is simply wrong." That was his public responses a couple of days ago. Now, last night on the plane back on Air Force One, leaving Davos in Switzerland, President Trump said this. So he said that NATO forces served, quote, away from front lines. Now, I've just put something in here. I wonder what Prince Harry, the King's son, would say about that as a helicopter pilot evacuating wounded NATO personnel. Their sacrifice, remember, which inspired him to set up the Invictus Games. And here's some stats for you, folks. The UK lost 457 soldiers in that 20-year conflict of Afghanistan. Now, as a percentage of all the forces the UK deployed there, I've calculated it, 4.7% of our deployed forces died in Afghanistan. In the USA, 2,400 of its soldiers. But, here's the key but, that was 2.6% of their deployed forces. So we lost close to double per capita the number of soldiers killed in battle in Afghanistan. So what he said was at worst, well, could I say it?
Insulting?
Well, perhaps I can't use the L word. An untruth? Perhaps I can say that, or should I say I maintain that this was a complete falsehood. So I have to be careful here, folks, because Ofcom doesn't like us using certain phrases about political figures. But it's clearly a fiction. It is clearly a fiction. So per capita, we lost.
I don't know. This is where we're spending time right on stuff that he says, which is clearly. Now, I think it's been described as unhinged. I
Interestingly,
think the key thing to focus on here.
Just let me quickly add this point. Now, interestingly, just as I was,
I'm bored of Trump.
But interestingly, just as I was writing this afternoon, the Prime Minister came out at Downing Street, and he's completely, utterly condemned what the President has said. And he's actually demanded that Trump makes an apology. So, Starmer has completely reversed tact. And instead of being, lovey-dovey, he's taken a tough stand. So where do you think things are going, Zaffar?
I think what I was going to say really is that what we had a conversation in the break, right, which is more tragic for the UK, and the UK's exit out of sort of Europe. Yeah. The fact that UK basically relied or banked on the special relationship with America, and that special relationship doesn't appear. Well, it doesn't appear to be sort of materializing. So we're kind of like left in limbo. So I think that it was a mistake to leave UK. We were swindled by sweet talking
Yeah.
silver-tongued,
What was it? Something like 300 million a week going into the NHS
yeah,
on the battle bus.
yeah,
On the Brexit battle bus. Do you remember that?
That's right.
Yeah, 10
Silver-tongued,
years ago now, isn't it?
silver-tongued charlatans. We were swindled by them. I think UK ought to go back to Europe and beg for forgiveness and then go back in again into Europe, because clearly, the cost of living crisis has not been resolved by moving, coming out of Europe. If not, it's probably made it worse. Getting your tomatoes from Spain without the tariffs is a lot cheaper, right, than getting them from Kenya or something like that, shipping them all over here. So clearly that was a miscalculation in the UK. And I think there is some conversations about doing some sort of a deal with UK or with Europe in order to try and sort of reduce some of the
I think
tariffs.
we should be. I think we should literally beg to be let back in.
Indeed.
Otherwise, we're going to be a vassal state of the America. We're just going to be completely subservient.
There's probably an argument that was the intention. The intention was that these silver-tongued charlatans were at the beck and call of foreign influences basically, and they did the job and they isolated UK. The UK needs to sort of get back in.
Anyway, listeners, so I hope we didn't bore you by emphasising on one issue for too long, but we thought it was important. Anyway, inshallah, have a lovely weekend. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Coming up.